issues in education. This one is all about school safety and security. We're joined right now by Rod Tappy, President, Missouri School Resource Officers Association, Jamie Driver, Executive Director, Independent Schools of St. Louis. Also, we have Deputy Kip Heinley, President, Illinois School Resource Officers Association, and Sergeant David Glenn, Director of Training and Special Projects, St. Louis Public Schools. Something we've talked about is sort of the synergy between the two and everyone being on the same page. Is it better than it's been, or is there room for improvement?
I think it's a lot better than it was a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. Whatever plan you have, you always have room for improvement.
Do you see that where there's kind of an understanding from the schools now how big this is and connecting with law enforcement, everyone on the same page?
Absolutely. It is front of mind for all of our schools, and they have a long history of partnering with their local law enforcement, so much so that they come in on a regular basis, review their safety security plans. They have drills all the time and do a lot of education back and forth, so they're always in constant contact with them.
Was there a mindset before that there was kind of a pushback, whether it's administrators, principals, teachers, I don't want to deal with, another drill, we have fire drill. Has that changed too now that everyone knows how real the threat is?
Yeah, I think schools right now are taking a more proactive approach instead of, kind of sitting back and waiting for something to happen, because the mindset should be not if it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, so you want to be prepared for when that does happen.
Is training a big part of that too, where you got to practice it? I mean, and we had an example earlier. They said we do fire drills. We never have kids who die in fires, thank God, but we do fire drills. Is that the other part of it, is to be constantly aware of your procedures?
That's correct. Training is essential. If you don't train, you're not going to be prepared. Collaboration, with the police and Federal Emergency Management, SEMA, all those different agencies, and the school district, it really helps for preparedness. And I think training is number one.
How about assessing threats? And we talked about this. You don't want to overlook something, but you don't want to panic either. How difficult is that right now in 2016 to know what's real?
I think sometimes you know what's real. We can't take any threat lightly. It could be just a kid blowing off steam. Do we want to take a chance on that's not real? For our threat assessments that we do, we have a team that will interview kids and find out. If it's an elementary kid just blowing off some steam, it's found out to be that. But if it's not, then we're able to give that kid some services to help him out later down the road.
Is there a guideline on that in terms of what makes it more real? Is there any way is it always a gut that tells you?
Well, I think if you have credible evidence to help support, like, say, for instance, a bomb threat, sometimes the information comes in very vague, but if they're being specific, actionable things that you can go after, or you might say a location, a time, a particular room, that kind of heightens it a little bit, but you never play any of them short. 3 bomb threats this school year at different locations, and we treated every last one of them with care, and we didn't downplay them at all. So I think that's important.
And the SRO, we talk about the school resource officer. Am I saying it correctly that that's the liaison to the law enforcement? That's sort of the eyes and ears within the school?
Yeah, SRO's role, we're bridging that gap between, the patrol guys and the schools and the kids. The SROs have to be very unique in their personalities because, they are a cop, but then they are inside the school. So, our main goal is to gain that trust of these students to where they can feel comfortable coming to us and say, hey, this is going to happen, or this happened last night. I don't feel comfortable telling the city police, but I'm going to feel comfortable telling you because I know you. So that, it's a very vital role that we play in keeping not only the school safe, but, everything else safe around us.
And I know it was a hot button topic earlier in the symposium too. Is there a sense of whether teachers being armed? I know that became a popular conversation for a while. Does that help or hurt in this situation?
It's really a big deal. We've actually faced that option here a couple of years ago. But our biggest thing on law enforcement is when we have officers coming from everywhere. If you have a major incident, you have officers coming in the building where they know no one. When you're an SRO in the building, you're spending time there, you know all your staff members. I prefer that I know that I'm the only one armed in the building, and if they're trying to stop the threat and another officer comes through the building, don't know them, that risk of them getting hurt is a lot higher. Also, police officers, we're trained in weapons retention, and educators are usually focused on curriculum and getting kids to know the tests. They're not going to be focused on Where's my firearm at this minute? So anytime you let your guard down and that's not a focus, becomes an opportunity for, let's say, 4 or 5 kids get a plan together. We know that teacher's armed. We're going to go take their weapon from them.
And there's a lot of liability in that, where are you going to secure the weapon? Law enforcement would have theirs right on their hip. So if you have a teacher or, you're not going to be in class with a gun on their hip, liability of that, students are really inquisitive and they can find things. And some of us that have children know that you can't really hide much in your house. So, and I think the other liability is, even when we look at the mental health of the students, you got to look at the mental health of some of the staff. You don't know what kind of background they have. About 18 officers that are armed, but they're supervisors, mobile supervisors and mobile officers, and they have vehicles and they go to our 75 schools, responding on, major incidents and just doing regular inspections. So that's where we're unique, but we would probably never, ever see a teacher or a principal armed in our St. Louis public schools.
What are the hurdles as you see it? So we're sitting here in 2016. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's seen the horrible news coverage of these events. How do we get better? What do you, for each person here, what do you think is an area that we can improve or an obvious area that's being overlooked?
I think in our case, from the independent schools perspective, the best and first line of defense that we have at all times is utilizing our community to know each other extremely well, to foster that deep relationship between parents, faculty, administration, and students. And the whole notion of if you see it, say it, lives very strongly within our schools. Our schools have the good fortune of being generally small, a low student-teacher ratio. As our kids move through our independent schools, they are known extremely well by everybody in that building, as is their families. So our school teachers and administrators have regular weekly meetings in many of our schools where they are reviewing the kids under their care. They're able to spot troubling signs or something. They may know that something's going on with the family, or in some cases a student has brought something. We try to foster a school environment where they all feel comfortable to be able to talk to some adult in the building and express a concern. Similarly, with parents, we just try to make sure that environment is fostered as the first line of defense. I think there's always more we can do in terms of educating our students, our faculty, and our parents, but that's really where we try to emphasize, is know the students well.
I think a lot of it starts at home. We're dealing with kids sometimes who don't have a good home structure. So as my role as an SRO is not only I'm a police officer, but I'm also a mentor, counselor, and almost a father figure to some of these kids. My main goal as an SRO is to teach these kids to become better adults, because this is our future. These kids are our future, so we want them to grow up right. We want to have good morals and good standards, and so someday they can be taking care of us. I go to a lot of extracurricular activities with my daughters. I want these kids and these parents in the community to see me not only as a cop, but as a father too. So I stress that a lot too. Besides the trust of these kids, they need to see us, as somebody they can come to. Somebody, if they have a problem, they can definitely come to us and we can help them.
David, how about for you? How do you think we can get better? Is there a pressing issue? And some of it's funding, and some of it's the equipment and the better schools and the better setup and more video. What do you see as an issue that's in front of us?
Educating the students on making better choices. One of the things we do is we do bully awareness, and it's not only just for those bullying situations, but if you see something, say something. So when they're involved in these situations that could escalate into a school shooting or maybe a big fight in the neighborhood, because a lot of the stuff goes back out in the neighborhood, and then you bring the social media and all that stuff gets involved. But I think that the training that they get so they can have better decision making. They might make a knee-jerk reaction to something that if they had waited just a little bit, we could be a lot safer. But I just think that training and education is going to be one of the biggest factors as a start, and just keep reinforcing that.
And Rod, we'll let you have the final word.
I think that social media control is one of our biggest battles, and it could be something we talked earlier, was if somebody's in a fight, or if there's a fight, or somebody says something about somebody else, it goes through that entire school very quickly. So, and that can create a lot of chaos in the building. If we can focus on building positive relationships with kids, whether it's staff, SROs, administration, that they feel comfortable to come to us before those rumor. Every year that we come up with social media, there's another social media being reborn that's a little bit bigger, better, and faster, but you can't control that. And the problem with that is, you know, everybody wants to text, everybody wants to send that out, so communication becomes a big problem. If we can try to wind that down a little bit, we'd be better off.
Well, thank you to our panel here.